We're looking at try catch blocks. Let's start it with a simple example. Let's say try followed by some curly braces, and then catch followed by some brackets followed by some curly braces. Inside of the catch brackets, we're just going to put exception E, and we're going to put some code inside of the try block that might throw an exception. And if there is an exception, then the catch is going to execute, and the exception is just going to get passed to the catch, and it's going to be named E. I'll make a scanner so that we can use it inside of our try catch block. Import java.util.scanner. And let's make the scanner up here scanner scnr equals new scanner system.in. And let's make an integer to use inside of our try catch block too. Let's say int user int equals -1. And inside of our try block, let's say user int equals scnr dot next int. And there's a lot of different ways that this could throw an exception. If the user enters anything that isn't an integer, then it's going to throw an exception, and then the catch block is going to execute. Let's put system.out.println that was not a whole number. There's a few other things we could put inside of our catch block. For now, we'll just leave it with this print statement. Let's run this. And let's just put another print statement above this that says system.out.println enter a whole number, no decimals. And let's run this and see what we get. I'm going to get enter a whole number, no decimals. And let's enter 20.5, so we're entering a decimal number. So then our catch block executes and says that was not a whole number. What the catch block has done is it's stopped the program from crashing. If we did this without the try catch block, I'm just going to comment the try catch block out for now. If we did this without the try catch block, if we said user int equals scnr dot next int, then the program's going to crash if we enter something that's not a whole number. So we try and enter something and the program's done, it's crashed. If we had any code after this, then it wouldn't execute. So we can say system.out.println this won't execute because the program's going to crash at user int equals scnr next int. So then we don't get this won't execute printed. But with the try catch block, if we take this and put it down beneath the try catch block, now we can say this will execute because the program's not going to crash. So we run it, we get enter whole number, we can put 2.5, and then it says that was not a whole number, this will execute. So the program hasn't crashed since we used a try catch block. And now let's make this even better. Let's put our try catch block inside of a while loop. Let's say while not valid. So as long as a valid number hasn't been entered, then the try catch block is going to keep executing. And we'll have to make a boolean valid equals false. So until we get valid input, then the try catch is just going to keep executing. And inside of the try, let's put valid equals true. Valid equals true is only going to execute if user int equals scnr next int executes without throwing an exception. If it does throw an exception, then the program execution is just going to jump down to the catch block, so valid equals true won't execute. So valid equals true is only going to execute if we get valid input into user int. So let's run this right now, and it's not going to do what we want it to do. It's going to be caught in a weird kind of loop because we haven't cleared the buffer. So let's run it just to see what happens. We get enter whole number, and let's put 2.5. And then the while loop's just going to keep executing because the 2.5 is still going to be in the buffer after user int equals scnr next int. Because user int equals next int isn't going to be successful, then 2.5 isn't going to be taken out of the buffer. So the exception is going to get thrown. It'll say that was not a whole number. And then the execution will jump back up to here because we're still in the while loop, and it's just going to keep trying. but it's going to keep trying with the 2.5 still in the buffer. So we're going to have to clear the 2.5 out of the buffer. If we enter it right now, we just get that was not a whole number infinitely printing out. So inside of our catch block, we're just going to say scnr dot next line. So that will clear out the decimal number that we're going to put into the buffer. So we get enter a whole number, no decimals. We enter 2.5, and now we get that was not a whole number. And now we can just try again. And again, that was not a whole number. We can put words in here. And it's still going to keep executing until we enter a whole number, and then the loop's going to be done. And then it's going to print out this will execute, or whatever we had after our while loop. Now let's make this even better. Let's have the user guess a number between 1 and 10. Let's say system.out.println guess a number between 1 and 10. No decimals. And let's change Boolean valid into Boolean correct, because now we're looking for a correct answer. So let's say while not correct. And we'll use mathrandom to generate us a random number. Let's say int random num equals int math.random times 10 plus 1. So math.random will generate us a random double between 0 and 0 point repeating 9. That will be multiplied by 10, which gives us something between 0 and 9 point repeating 9. And then we're going to add 1 to that, which will give us a number between 1 and 10 point repeating 9. And then that gets cast as an int, which gives us a whole number between 1 and 10. So inside of our try block, let's say if user int equals random num, then correct equals true. And we'll print out system.out.println that was right. Else we'll say try again. Even better, actually, let's put else if user int is lower than random num, then put that is too low, try again. And then we'll say else that is too high, try again. And we're going to run this right now, and then we'll do something after to make it even better. Let's say, I guess, a number between 1 and 10, no decimals. So if we try entering right now, say 5.5, then we get that was not a whole number. And then let's try and guess the number now. Let's say 5, and 5 was right away. Let's try this again. Guess a whole number between 1 and 10. 5, that is too low. 8, that was right. Now we're going to go into our catch block, and it's not entirely relevant for our program that we're making right now, but just to display what this method does, we're going to write e.print stack trace. E is the exception, and it's just going to print the stack trace of the exception. So it's going to show where in the program the exception was thrown, where the problem happened. So we get, I guess, a number between 1 and 10. We tried 20.5, and then it says that was not a whole number. And then it prints the exception, which is the input mismatch exception. And it tells us where it's happening at. So it's happening at trycatch.main, which is the main method of our class that we're in right now. And it's happening on the 15th line. The 15th line is where we try and store the int into user int, but of course 20.5 isn't an int. And one last thing that we should do that I haven't been doing in the lessons lately is closing our scanner. It is best practice to close your scanner. So the program's still going to run fine without it, but it is best practice just to put scnr.close to close up that scanner. Essentially, Java's garbage collection just doesn't clean up scanner objects. So that's where scanner.close comes in. It just closes up that scanner for us. So let's run this again one last time, and let's put 100 this time. So we're going to get a random number anywhere between 1 and 100. Guess a number between 1 and 100. 50 is too low, 75 is too high. Let's try 63. 63 is right. And then the program execution continues with whatever's after the while loop with the try catch block inside of it.